thank you for tuning in. Today we have with us a leading industry expert, Mr. Rajesh Chhabra, General Manager, India and South Asia, Acronis. Welcome, Rajesh. Thank you for joining us. It's a pleasure to be
Thank you,
having this
Supriya.
conversation with you today.
Thank you. Thank you, Supriya.
So, Rajesh, I was going through a very interesting study today by Falcon Feeds called India Breach Report, right? Which has revealed that India
Yeah.
experienced 593 cases of cyber attacks during the first half of the year itself. And education, government, and technology sectors were the primary targets of these attacks. So, these attacks included data breaches, ransomware, and also sales leak. I'm sure you have much more insights on this. So, this is why I'd like to get insights from you today on this. So, in the wake of evolving cybersecurity threat landscape and with India being one of the top 5 targeted countries for ransomware, how can organizations sort of adapt strategies to address these emerging threats?
Yeah, good question, Supriya. So basically, this is not coming as a surprise. India actually has consistently been one of the top countries targeted by by bad actors, and year after year, and especially this trend accelerated after the pandemic. India ranked very high in the list of countries which were specifically targeted. Perhaps one of the main reasons could be the fact that India still doesn't have a very comprehensive cybersecurity posture, and because of the fact that it's a very diverse landscape, and if we talk about the sprawl of organizations from small and medium business to enterprise, there are obviously pockets of businesses that are very aware and do secure themselves, with the latest cyber protection tools. But of course, there's a large population of industry which still needs to kind of go a long way to secure their infrastructure. So in my view, if we talk about what organizations can adopt to address these emerging threats, uh, I would start with the very basics. I would say that before investing into millions of dollars into security stack, uh, the basics need to be there, and the most fundamental aspect is educating employees about cyber threats and giving them a few basics and essentials of how they can protect themselves. And if I talk about, just give you a few examples of these basics, um, uh, one of the main points that I keep on talking with our partners, our channel across India, is that uh, emails is one of the most common threat vectors, right? Because a staggering 90% or more than 90% of all malware ransomware comes from email. So employees need to be educated on how they can actually recognize a phishing email, and how they can protect themselves and their organizations from these phishing emails, how they should identify potentially um, hazardous URLs or attachments, and inform their security team on these emails as soon as they see them. So this I would say is the very basic, and I just give you a very simple example, but here I'm talking more about educating the employees on cyber threats holistically, and kind of giving them ways to prevent themselves and the organizations from these threats. Okay, there are numerous other things. In the interest of time, I wouldn't go into each and every activity, but I just gave you, like, at a very high level, emails being number one threat vector, checking URLs before opening. Similarly, nowadays we do see a lot of dynamic URLs being sent to the employees to steal credentials. Because of the remote work now, almost every employee is working on collaboration tools like Teams or Zoom. So it's a very common scam to send them dynamic URLs which look like very very similar to collaboration platforms. And the moment they will log into these platforms, it will make them believe that these are the genuine websites, and the idea of these websites is basically just to steal their credentials. So enough said about that. So basically, I think the first step is to educate the employees, which is most important. The second step, once we've educated the employee, is for organizations to have uh, defense in depth, right? No security solution in the world can offer them 100% security. Uh, it's always it's always a fight between the bad and the good, and it's kind of very cliche, but that's how it is in cybersecurity world as well. It's always a fight between bad actors, good actors, and bad actors also use AI, good actors also use AI. So I would say a practical approach here would be to have multiple layers of security, which is what we call as defense in depth, right? So the more layers of security you have, the higher checkpoints you have in stopping cyber threats. Okay? Uh, at a very high level, these multiple layers of security would look like the following. At the first level, you would have network. So there should definitely be a firewall that can filter network traffic. At the second level is the endpoints that we work on as employees. So there should be good endpoint protection. I would say a robust endpoint detection and response should be adopted, which can quickly detect, respond, and recover from cyber threats, and also identify the source of the threats and basically elevate the threat protection level. Third would be a patching mechanism. As I mentioned initially, that emails form 94% of all cyber threats. Similarly, uh, most of the vulnerabilities which are exploited are known vulnerabilities which are not patched, right? So a good patching routine should be adopted. As soon as vulnerabilities are identified and patches are released, there should not be a delay between the patch get released by the manufacturer and it being implemented across the infrastructure, because this delay is typically exploited by the bad actors. So vulnerability should be patched as soon as a patch is available. So we've talked about employee education, we have talked about network, we have talked about endpoint, which includes implementing a good security solution in EDR and patching the endpoints. And the last I would say would be to implement practices like multi-factor authentication and zero trust network architecture. So with multi-factor and zero trust, organizations would basically ensure that there is an extra level of authentication for even employees when they access corporate resources. And with zero trust, you are basically trusting no one as far as access to corporate network is concerned. You are giving a need-only access to employees. So these I would say are the basic good practices that they can adopt to enhance their security posture. And lastly, even after despite all of this, there is still a chance that organizations might still be breached. Yes, of course, it would fall down in the ranking from fourth or fifth to a lower number, which is what we need. But still, there could be a breach, and for that, they should strengthen their incident response system to handle the breaches effectively and quickly. And at the same time, there could be a backup and recovery solution so that in case they are breached, they are able to do a quick restoration of data and the organization can move on from there. So this is the answer that I would say of how they can enhance their security posture.
I know, I mean, it seemed simple when you said it, but when we talk to cybersecurity professionals, that's the main thing that they say, that the employees, they are the weakest link in the cybersecurity framework of an organization, and these spoofed emails are really like hard to recognize which is genuine and which is like from threat actors. That is one challenge that everybody shares with us. Another thing that they share with us is the rising cloud adoption, right? There are cloud native companies and there are companies that are moving from on-prem to cloud. So cloud could be a double-edged sword, right? So what are some of the key challenges that organizations face today when it comes to cybersecurity solution, and what must their approach be to manage and mitigate these issues, especially with the increasing need for cloud solutions and global accessibility?
Okay, so let me actually answer this question by telling you something which I think all of us can relate here. So we all have seen pre-pandemic, post-pandemic, and we all have seen IT maybe about 10 years back and now. So if you will compare 10 years back to now, you would see that IT has actually touched and simplified our lives a lot. So let me give you some basic examples. So 10 years back, we had a multiplicity of devices. So we used to have a camera for taking pictures. I remember even pager, where people used to page. We used to have a phone. Then the phone that we know today, mobile device that we know today, it was not so potent. Usually the phone was there to take calls, right? So multiplicity of, and we used to have pen drives for storing data. Multiplicity of devices that everyone needed to go on with their daily life. Let's go back and rewind of how we used to do financial transactions. I think most of us have written checks, right? But now the last time we wrote a check. Now everything is like digital, right? We don't even use checks anymore. So I think it would not be an overstatement to say that IT has truly simplified our lives. Right now, if you go across India, you would see even the smallest of a shopkeeper actually accepting digital payments, right? And since I travel a lot, I have had a couple of instances when I actually forgot to carry my wallet. But I had my phone, and to be honest, I didn't face any challenge even when I was traveling, right? So truly, IT has simplified our lives. But if you talk about IT professionals, for them, the opposite has happened, because 10 years back, they only used to do two things: take a backup, right, and have an antivirus solution. These two things, and they are sorted, right? They used to be in their server room. The server room was air conditioned, but still it was sweaty. There was a big interconnection of wires. There would be server racks inside, and just these two aspects: take a backup on a network storage, and have an antivirus. You are sorted. That's their job. But now, with the world simplifying, their job has actually taken a U-turn, and it has become very complex, because actually they are the ones who are simplifying the world. So for them, the world has become very complicated. Why I say that? Okay, you asked about moving to cloud and what are the how changing to cloud has changed the environment today. So first of all, I believe that the move to cloud and has actually has actually created a new generation of enterprise and entrepreneurs around the world, because when the world moved to cloud, there was a need for cloud-based applications. So on the CRM side, or on the security side, right, on the identity and access management side, so many applications were developed after this movement to cloud, that if you actually do a survey of most of SMB or enterprise organizations, they would tell you that just for security, the most commonly used tools would be close to 1000. Okay, and I'm just talking about health security. If you talk about identity and access management, again 1000. If you talk about network security, more. If you talk about patch management, more. What has happened is that this has led to complexity in the life of IT providers. Okay, so their life has become more complex. While 10 years back they used to manage one tool, now they have to manage multiple tools, because obviously they are working for different clients, and every client is using different tools. So they have to basically understand multiple tools and to work with them. Okay. Now coming to the challenges that organizations face, cyber threat landscape has become very complex, right? Because of the advent of the cloud, there are now customers working from all around the world, employees working from all around the world, right? Now there is a mix of on-premise and cloud-based workloads. So we have some workloads on the cloud, we have some workloads on-premise. And obviously, security has moved beyond the company perimeter. As I was discussing with you earlier as well, we are working from airports, we are working from our homes, working from hotels, lobbies, and the entire world is our perimeter now, right? So organizations still have to secure it, right? So this, in my view, is one of the biggest challenges that they face. So we talked about how cyber threat landscape is becoming more and more complex, but at the same time, the security infrastructure is now showing a lot of gaps than it used to show previously. Number one reason is, I just explained in detail, multiple tools being deployed for different customers. There is a huge proliferation of tools, and this sprawl of tools is basically adding to a lot of complexity, and on top of that, it is adding to siloed security infrastructure, because all these tools speaking to each other, they are all working in silos. And thirdly, because of all these tools, too many alerts are being generated, and ID administrators are wasting a lot of time and effort in just solving these alerts, which in the end many of them could be false positives.
You're absolutely right there, Rajesh. And you mentioned two things. One is the remote work aspect of it, and the sprawl of IT solutions aspect of it. I'd like to come to it one by one. You rightly mentioned now that the world is our parameter, right? And this remote work has only been accelerated by the pandemic, and all of us are working from home. And it's not necessary that we are using enterprise grade networks and devices. We are using non-enterprise grade networks and devices to access
Yeah.
company resources, right? So, how can sort of organizations address the vulnerabilities introduced by remote work?
That's a good point. So, see, when we are working from remote locations, what we have is our laptop or our desktop, basically an endpoint. So, I think again, starting from the basic, we need to secure this endpoint employees work on. Okay, the endpoints can be secured by solutions like endpoint detection and response, which can detect, respond to threats, even understand the source of the threat, and can then basically enhance the security posture. So the first step is to secure the endpoints, right? Now, once the endpoint is secure, the other thing that we really have to protect is the communication between this endpoint and corporate network, because all of us are connecting to our corporate network. We are all entering into our company's network and working there during the course of a day, accessing information, documents, even uploading information document there. So this communication has to be secured as well. And since the entire world is our perimeter, from wherever we are working, this communication has to be secured. How we can secure it? We can go about deploying a virtual private network. Okay, we do it in our organization, where if we have to access the corporate network, we first have to activate the private network, so that the communication between us and the company network is encrypted. I would say this is point number one. Point number two is that once you are inside the company network, there should be some higher level of security, because everyone is working from remote. What could be those higher levels of security? Example could be multi-factor authentication, so that if you are accessing any corporate network, there has to be at least two levels of authentication. You do it through a one-time password on your phone, which is very popular in India, or you could do it through the authentication apps, which are available from most of the providers. That is one method. Additionally, you can do single sign-on. Single sign-on will simplify the employee access to all the corporate network, and will also provide for centralized security management, right? So this will then secure the communication between the endpoint and the corporate network. Then what else is left? If you think about it, what else is left is, I'll go back to my initial point. You have to secure the email gateway, because emails threat number one in terms of phishing attacks, in terms of verified URLs. So employees have to secure their emails. So a good email security solution should be deployed. Okay, emails, if you think about it, emails are very much like the good old postcards. Okay, yeah, if you remember the good old postcard. Why? Because first, anyone can send it to you. You have no control over who is sending you. Anyone can write anything on the postcard. You have no control over what the sender is writing, right? So if you put it to today, anyone can send an email to you, and anyone can send any attachment to you. You have no control, right? So you got to secure it by adopting a good solution, which can protect you from phishing, from spam, from advanced persistent threat. I would say would be one more step of how you can protect remote workers. Then, in addition to that, nowadays most employees are using collaboration tools. We are using Teams or other collaboration tools. So we should be securing these collaboration tools by encrypting communication that employees are having amongst themselves, because this is also happening through remote routers. So it's very important to protect as well. And I go back to my thought about patching. These endpoints need to be patched regularly. And lastly, I think should be strict password compliance, because if you have a good password compliance, good password hygiene, then you are securing. Then employees also participate in the effort to secure their endpoint. So yeah, these are the main points.
So I'll now come to the sprawl of IT solutions that you spoke about. It is truly every IT manager's nightmare, right? And it often requires significant resources to manage this kind of an IT sprawl. So how can organizations streamline and manage, the multiple security solutions, and what impact does this consolidation have on the operational efficiency of an organization?
So, in the previous discussion, I just mentioned about the fact that now there is a proliferation of tools, right? Which is what we are calling a sprawl of IT solution. What led to this proliferation is also are three factors. One, IT to the cloud. So now we are not using racks and hardware, and but IT has moved to the cloud. All the servers, containers, platform has all migrated to the cloud. Okay? Because of which SaaS-based application started proliferating. Okay, so that led to the sprawl. The second reason of the sprawl of the solutions is the way we look at data. Actually, again, 7 to 8 years back, data used to be mainly used by the finance department of an organization, because they used to look at, they had to file compliances, taxes, employee salaries. So they were the ones who were working with data. But now data is actually the lifeline of any business, because data is used as a tool to expand business. You look at customer value, you segment your customers. So data is sliced and diced into different ways, which is why amount of data is increasing. So there are various studies which show that whatever data we generated in 50 years, till about 2020 we have generated the same amount of data in 1 year. And by 2025 we will be generating X number of times. So data is increasing exponentially, right? So all of this is leading to multiple solutions, and this sprawl of solutions is of course the challenge, because first companies need to train their employees, their IT administrators, to work on these different tools. And if you have different tools, it obviously adds complexity, and if it adds complexity, chances of error are higher. So in multiple surveys, we have seen that human errors are responsible for cyber threats, for breaches, which again, to a large extent, is caused by this sprawl of IT solution. Then the other challenge is that all these solutions are not talking to each other. They are working in their silos. And because of that, it compromises the security part. Okay. We believe that a solution which talks with each other, because ultimately it's all about IT infrastructure protection. It's all about protecting the organization from cyber threats. So whether it is backup, or whether it is ransomware protection, or whether it is advanced management like doing patch management, all of these are ultimately working towards protecting the organization's IT infrastructure. So if they talk to each other, they can actually achieve a higher level of security. So then the third point I would like to say, which is the main challenge with sprawl of these solutions, is that every solution is generating its own set of alerts. Acronis did a survey, and many other agencies have conducted surveys with organizations over the last 3 or 4 years, and what has come out is that an enterprise might be using up to 50 security tools, an SMB might be using up to 15 to 20 security tools, and all of these tools are generating alerts day in and day out. And the technicians are basically having to go into these solutions and then check these alerts one by one, which basically chokes their bandwidth, because most of their time they are just looking at these alerts, which could be false positive as well. So this is the major challenge that we see has occurred because of this sprawl of IT solutions.
So we spoke a lot, Rajesh. From this, I can understand that, when it comes to cybersecurity, right, the one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work. There are different sectors. I mean, like you mentioned, for finance, it's different. And, for manufacturing and healthcare, I can understand it's different. So how does Acronis, I'd like to understand Acronis' cybersecurity play here. How does Acronis tailor its cybersecurity solutions to meet the specific requirements of various verticals? And if you could share a few examples, it would be great.
Sure. So if we talk about industry verticals, Let's take example of some top verticals such as healthcare or finance. So for healthcare, I think one of the most important aspects is regulatory compliance, right? We know about HIPAA, which is Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. So there are a lot of elements to comply with HIPAA, which involves data encryption, storage, access controls, right? So Acronis basically ensures HIPAA compliance through data integrity and endpoint protection. So we basically, I think we were the first movers into implementing blockchain-based encryption. Okay, where we used a unique, it was our adaptation of blockchain-based technology, where we used blockchain hash algorithms to encrypt the data at source and at rest. And these hash algorithms that were generated were then put on the public blockchain ledger so that they could be cross-checked for transparency. And ultimately, when you are restoring data, you could compare the two blockchains to ensure that there is no modification in the data at rest or during transit. Only if the hash algorithms match, 100% that the data has not been tampered with. Okay, this is just one way of how Acronis ensures data integrity. Uh, and that helps the healthcare industry, because then they can protect the patient records and they can ensure data integrity. Similarly, they can back up these records and ensure that they are compliant using our backup and recovery solution, right? Again, healthcare is very, very prone to targeted attacks. So Acronis' unique approach to cyber protection, which basically combines data protection, cybersecurity, and advanced management, endpoint management to provide for a robust security, also helps in healthcare industry, because they can secure their medical devices, they can secure their endpoints against ransomware attacks. So this, I would say, is how Acronis responds to basic inherent needs of each and every industry. Similarly, if you talk about finance, finance is more about compliances. It's more about risk management. So if we talk about risk management, we have a comprehensive threat detection inbuilt in our solution to prevent cyber attacks. If we talk about data security, I already talked about strong encryption. We talked about multi-factor authentication, which Acronis provides, so which can secure financial data. If we talk about manufacturing sector, what they really need, we have seen is that if they have multiple plants in different geographies, they need centralized management of IT infrastructure. So Acronis provides a centralized platform to which basically they can manage all the geographies from one single pane of glass. Okay, they also need, if it's a production plant, they need to have minimum downtime. So for business continuity, we have very advanced disaster recovery solution, where they can even convert a physical image into a virtual image and spin it up within a matter of seconds, so that their business continuity is not impacted. So these are some of the common examples of how Acronis tailors its needs for different verticals.
That was a wonderful insight. And, again, thank you, Rajesh, for sharing that. I know I've taken a lot of your time. So, before you leave, I'd like to quickly ask you, because we get asked this a lot, what are some of the major trends that are expected to transform the cybersecurity landscape in the near future?
Okay, yeah, this is a very good question, and one of my favorite phrases nowadays is that it's that AI and ML are here to stay. Okay, we will see more and more use of AI and ML, and it's not only the good actors which will use AI and ML, which is also the bad actors which are already using AI and ML. So some years back, we identified um, hacking and malware with teens who had dropped out of colleges, who were geniuses. They were just kind of creating these malwares for fun, but now it's a very sophisticated industry. So you already have on the darknet services like ransomware as a service, okay, where you can actually buy ransomware and for as low as like $500 and deploy it to organizations. So that trend, I think, unfortunately, will continue. Okay, and we will see rise of ransomware as a service. Okay, and they will continue to evolve. The cyber criminals will employ more and more sophisticated techniques to infiltrate systems and encrypt the data. So that, in my view, will continue. The other trend that I see nowadays is IoT devices. Uh, Everyone is adopting to IoT devices in a big way. If you think about any common household, we have Alexas, we have closed circuit, CCTV surveillance. Uh, we want to make sure that we are able to watch our house when we are away on vacation. Um, or it could be even for elderly care. But the fact is that there are multiple use cases for IoT devices, and they continue to be adopted by people all around the world. At the same time, the IoT devices are very, very prone to cyber attacks because they lack robust security features. Many a times, one is not able to install the cybersecurity installation file on them because they do not have a physical microprocessor or a memory. I think one of the trends that we will see is how to secure these IoT devices, as IoT devices actually become gateways for cyber breaches, right? So this is another trend that I see will continue. I also believe that the security on clouds will increase with more cloud native security solutions coming in, because more and more organizations will move to cloud, and with cyber threat becoming more and more complex, there will be a need to have cloud native cyber security. Now, in between all of this, one thing which is sure to happen is that there will be an acute shortage of cybersecurity talent. Hence, the demand for cybersecurity professionals will increase. So if you have kids, or if you have friends and family who are confused about what career they should go into, you can definitely tell them that if they are interested, make cybersecurity as their career, and they will definitely go along with it. I would kind of summarize it there.
All right. Wonderful. Thank you so much, Rajesh. And thank you so much for making this interview so simple to understand, right? I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you. I'm sure our audience will appreciate it as well. Thank you so much.
Sure, thank you.